Okay, so now we have our thumbnails are 2 up each, right? The images are too big for us to fit. So let's pull up our bit here, and I have gone through and added back in those links as well as the figure and fig captions, which we'll get to styling in a minute. Let's go back into our CSS. So we want to make sure that each thumbnail is a quarter of the container, right? Because we want 4 across. So no one thing can be bigger than 25%. Okay, so we want to target our list elements now, our LIs. So let's go ahead and, as I've put right here, we want specifically the thumbnail grid list elements. So kind of like we've got in our thumbnail grid our unordered list, we want the exact same thing with our list elements. Great. So we want each thumbnail to be 25% of the size of the container, right? So let's go ahead and add a max width is 25%. Okay, cool, right? That should work. Oh, what? So this is one of the things where we're going to break it so that we can fix it. Now, yes, each of our elements is now 25%. Okay, except for the fact that images are one of those things that don't play by the rules. The images themselves can be larger than the container that holds them. That's a bit of an issue. So now we want to set the maxed width for our images to be 100%. So then the images themselves can never be larger than 100% of their container. This is, as I put here, it's very important to make sure that everything is responsive. So we want this to be true. You can either do the same thing where we're only styling images that are children of list items or children thumbnail grids or children of the other, but I think this is going to be true for all of our images. So we're just going to go ahead and make a rule for images. And in general, this isn't a bad thing to add in, as we kind of noticed back with our Mobi as well. Okay, awesome. Okay, they fit. And check this out, they scale. Of course, we probably also want our text to scale and or our text to move. And also you'll notice that there's a lot more space around these guys than there is in the other one. But on the upside, we do have a 4x2 page. So now let's take a look at some of these figure elements in order to see what's going on with that padding. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to view my developer tools. All right, go ahead and pick that element. Okay. So if I click on the figure itself, you'll notice that there is a lot of padding. So we've got a list element, and now that doesn't have any padding, and it does have a max width of 25%. Okay, that's fine for the link, but the figure has some padding on it. And then we've got the image and then the fig caption. Okay, so we want to go ahead. So what you'll notice here is that, you know how we used our reset? Well, figure is a newer element. And so because of that, it isn't going to be set to 0. So we're going to go ahead and add in a rule for our figure that sets the margin and padding to 0. So right now, I'm just going to close this guy out so you can see this. And then go ahead in here, and I'm going to add in figure. Okay, margin 0 pixels. Oops. Padding, again, also 0 pixels. Okay, awesome. Okay, now refresh. Okay, but now they're butting up against each other. So we're getting closer. All right. Now, you'll see bigger, no gutter. Now, we want to change instead the margin to be on the list items themselves. So we want to only have it be on the right and have it be 1.33%. Now, the reason you're only setting it on one side is because obviously if you set it on both, then you'd have 1.33 and then you'd have 2.66, 2.66, 2.66, 1.33. So we're going to go ahead and just do a right margin. All right, let's go ahead. And again, real quick, notice that this is just going to be on the LIs. So we can go ahead back to our CSS and go to our LIs. So we don't want that. And then we want a margin right of, I've said it and it's come right out of my head, 1.33%. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that so I can't forget it again. Save. Ba-doomf. Oops. Because now we've got things over 100%, right? Because we've got 25%, 25%, 25%, and then we got 1.33% on each of them. So that's not quite right. So everything equals more than 100. And so we're going to have to do some math in order to get it to all fit on one page. So there's kind of two ways around this. We're going to get down to this, but first I want to talk to you a little bit about the nth child pseudo-selector. So what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is make our margin. First, we're going to make each of our list items 24%. So that way, if we have margins on 3 out of our 4 pieces, it will equal 99.99%, which is what we're looking for. So that's the first thing. Is let's go ahead and make that 24% instead of 25%. But now what we want to do is that still equals 101.32%, which is not what we're looking for. But the right margin on the last item is unnecessary. So what we want to do is to remove it from only the last item on a row. So we can add this guy here, which basically says that the last one in the row should not have a margin. So I'm going to copy and paste this in. Okay. And now I just want to refresh this and you see how it fits. So that requires a bit more math. Also, you can go ahead and check out about the nth child as a CSS trick, which is a handy way to get around certain things, especially if things aren't working the way you expect them to. But I now want to show you the easier way to do all this. So let's go ahead and we're going to comment out the margin right property. And so we're going to go back to not having any gutters, right? Okay, I want to go ahead. I'm going to comment out this guy. Okay. I'm also going to comment out this because that is no longer relevant if I don't have a right margin. Okay. So we're going back to everybody's up against each other, right? Okay. Let's make each of the flex items, our list items, 21%. Great. Again, now you can see they're smaller. All right, we're going to go into our developer tool or your web inspector, depending on which browser you're in. Now, we're going to add in justify content to the flex container, and we're going to play with these 5 elements. Okay, so we're going to go in and we're going to go into our developer tools. Now, you want to select the flex container. Remember, that's our unordered list. So I'm going to dial down. And you see how it says flex. That's handy, huh? Now, note that you can go into the element style and you can add things in. It's kind of a handy thing that you can do. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to add in justify content. And yeah, justify content. Now you'll notice we've got all of these different options. What we did before was center. Okay, well now I want to not use center. I want you to try these ones. Flex start, flex end, space between, and space around. Okay, the other nice thing is if I delete that, it shows us different options. So flex end. And you'll see where that space is coming in, right? How about flex start? All right, space between and space around. Again. That's handy. And you notice that has it on the edges too. This one's another handy one. So pick whichever one you think fits best for the pieces. Again, you can try any of these other ones as well. Like you can see left, normal, right. I'm going to go with space evenly. Now, I've just changed it here. I haven't actually changed it in my CSS. Once you decide you want one, go ahead and actually put that in your CSS. Otherwise, it's not going to stay. So we need to go back up to our container here and justify content space evenly. Now you'll notice that this one, it's not entirely sure. Is that right? It should be right once I'm going to close you out. I'm going to save you. I'm going to refresh. And handily, it does not change. So it did, in fact, work as intended. And now you can go ahead and you can change any of the width or justify content that you think suits best to get your thumbnail grid to be looking the way that you want it to look. And then we're going to get into actually styling the captions. So right now, hopefully your page looks a lot like this. Now I've decided to go for the space evenly, so there was the space on the edge. This one doesn't. It goes to, oh, which one did I use for that one? Space between. So if it doesn't look exactly like it at this point, as long as you know why in the spaces, because I use spaced evenly, that's fine.